And we begin in Italy, where the country has begun implementing controversial rules for humanitarian groups operating in the Mediterranean Sea. Now, the move comes as at least 5 aid organizations have refused to sign the Code of Conduct. The rules affect boats involved in migrant rescues and include a ban on sending light signals and a ban on transferring rescued migrants to other ships. The new rules come as Italy claims some charities have been encouraging potential migrants to make the dangerous journey to Europe. However, organizations like Doctors Without Borders is concerned the rules could lead to a decrease in the efficiency of its rescue teams in the Mediterranean Sea, which would lead to further deaths. Well, we can now cross over to CGTN's Guy Henderson. He's joining us from Germany there, from Berlin. Guy, Italy says it is justified in demanding that aid organizations sign a new code of conduct for migrant rescue operations. What is the view there?
Well, I think there is a widespread feeling that something needs to be done about what has at times been record numbers of migrants and refugees crossing the Mediterranean again in 2016. And Italian authorities have really taken the lead in bringing about various changes that might be able to bring those numbers down. This latest development, just in regards to this latest development, you had mentioned that Italian authorities are now basically brought in this code of conduct for charities that are operating in the Mediterranean, operating on rescue missions, and that Rome says might be well-meaning, but in some cases are, in their view, acting as a magnet, if you like, to people trafficking. Some of them have signed up, some of the NGOs have signed up to these new measures, others have not, on the grounds that they don't like some of those measures, measures like including armed police officers on some of those rescue vessels. And one of the charities that had refused to sign up, well, their crew is now being questioned by the Italian Coast Guard on the island of Lampedusa, and that has led to questions about whether this was the beginning of a clampdown. I think it is worth pointing out that both the charity and the Italian Coast Guard are now saying that this German NGO questioning was part of a standard check, so not necessarily what is expected at some point to be a standoff, where essentially authorities tell those charities that have not signed this new code of conduct that they'll no longer be able to operate in the Mediterranean.
So, of course, there are going to be many questions asked by the NGOs as to exactly what will really happen to them, because as you mentioned there, some of the NGOs have not signed up to that code of conduct, and perhaps one may have actually been questioned. So what exactly is likely to happen, though, if the aid organizations remain uncomfortable with the new rules and they refuse to append their signatures? Will their boats be impounded like the German one, or what exactly is going to happen to them?
Well, it's not entirely clear at this stage. I think the reason that this particular impounding, there seems to be some sort of, a lack of clarity on exactly what happened in this instance, whether it really was, a standoff, the start of a real change in tactic by the Italian authorities, or whether this could be indeed a standard check. I think there will be a lot of discussions now around what the best path forward is here. Certainly these charities are saying that they're not going to sign up to these measures, that they don't like the look of them. These 9 different charities operating in the Mediterranean account for something like 35% of all rescues, so they see themselves as being absolutely vital to the effort that's taking place there. Italian authorities, by the same token, they're not likely to budge themselves. They have insisted on this new code of conduct, whether it's now, whether it's in a few days or weeks. I think it is thought likely that if those charities don't sign up, they are at some point going to be prevented from doing what they're doing.
Well, Guy, Europe has been struggling with exactly what to do with the migration situation there on the Mediterranean. So what measures would be effective at this point in discouraging human smuggling across the Mediterranean Sea?
well, this is another thing that the Italians have really taken on lead on in recent months. Through the EU, through NATO, they have been carrying out training programs for the Libyan Coast Guard. That appears to have been having some successes. There was a real surge in numbers earlier in the year and into the early summer, and the latest statistics from the EU's border agency shows that those numbers are coming down now, and some of the credit has gone to the training that's taken place so far. In the last couple of hours or so now, the Italian Parliament has passed a bill which will lead to additional measures for the Italian Coast Guard in the form of an actual Italian naval presence inside Libyan waters. Now, this was something that was requested, we understand, by the UN-backed government in Tripoli. The Italians had initially wanted to send up to 6 naval vessels into Libyan waters. That had raised a few heckles amongst officials inside Libya, so that number was brought down to 2. In theory, these Italian naval vessels will have the power, the authority to pick up migrants, and because they're in Libyan waters, take them back to Libyan shores. I think it's widely expected that will not happen, at least for now, because of the conditions inside Libya. The Italian authorities are really stressing that these 2 vessels now will be mainly there to provide logistical support. But there is this increasing political will now in Europe to try and find a way to stop these crossings taking place at all, and to somehow manage this refugee crisis on the shores of North Africa rather than on the shores of Europe.
All right, Guy Henderson joining us there from Berlin. Thank you.